I think that he underestimated the depth of corruption of the government. He didn't realize how broadly it had metastasized. This is why, for example, when COVID came along, I think Trump thought, well, yeah, the media is biased against me and academia and Hollywood, but I can trust the guys in the white coats. If Fauci, who's been around since Reagan, comes and tells me you need to shut down the economy, well, I should do it. Now, remember, that was not an easy thing for Trump to do because he was hurting his own economy. Mm-hmm. And for people who say, no, it's all about himself, he doesn't really care, I think looking back, that represented a pretty fateful decision by him to jeopardize his own reelection. But he did it because he trusted the CDC. I think he trusted the NIH. Of course, now I think a lot of us, including Trump, have realized, no, even there, the rot has gotten consolidated.
It's a crazy world, crazy world. Somebody's gotta have to save you. It's a crazy world. It's a crazy world. Somebody's gotta have to save you.
Joining me today is a best-selling author, the host of the Dinesh D'Souza podcast, and filmmaker of many films, but his new one's coming out next week, Vindicating Trump. Dinesh D'Souza, good to see you.
Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
We've done this many times now in many, many different studios on many coasts of America, and I have to say, the first time that I sat down with you was around 2017 or so, and we were pretty far apart politically, and I think we were trying to make some sense of each other at the time. I think the world has changed quite significantly since then, and we've gotten a lot closer. That's sort of indicative of what's going on here in the country, don't you think?
I think so. In fact, I think we, in some ways, went on a similar journey. I just maybe went there a little quicker than you did. And what I mean is that, when I first encountered Trump on the scene, I was like, where is this guy coming from? We don't know anything about him. His sort of ideological contours appear to be extremely unclear, to put it mildly. And so we would hunker down for Ted Cruz in the 2016 primary. Then Trump won, and then it forced a kind of a re-examination. All right, let's take a look. What is it about him that's striking a chord? And then, of course, the vilification of Trump started, which immediately puts you on your guard. Mm-hmm. So I think by the time that election came along, I thought, yes, this guy represents something new, and it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out.
What do you think he represents at this point? Because to me, it's well beyond politics. It certainly is not conservatism.
Right.
I don't know what it is other than maybe America can continue in a way that we've known it to be. It's something like that.
I think that the implications of Obama's let's remake America didn't sink in at the beginning. People thought that was boilerplate rhetoric. Mm-hmm. Everyone says, we're the change. So this seemed to be staple rhetoric. But in fact, in the 2 terms of Obama, a real remaking was underway on pretty much every front. And Trump represents, I think, the antithesis of that. So the way I look at it is, we have this in the film, one of the iconic scenes, Trump coming down the escalator, yep. Trump Tower. So here's how I understand the symbolism of that scene. You have all the elites kind of perched at the top. And of course, you have Ellen DeGeneres is up there, and Oprah is up there, and Trump is one of them. He's cool. He's a cool cat, and he's a cultural celebrity. However,
loved by all of them.
And loved by all of them.
Not just one of them. They all loved him. Oprah begged him to run for president in 1986 or something on her.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Then he makes this fateful decision, and it's an interesting question to what degree he knew the full implications of it. He descends down that escalator, right? It's almost like you got these ignored group of American people down at the bottom. Not the entire population, but the people that no one has paid attention to. They're down there. He decides to go join them. And this, I think, helps to explain their attachment to him, because the way they look at it is he didn't have to do it. This guy had it going. Mm-hmm. And look at the slings and arrows he's taking, and why? Because he's joined our team. Meanwhile, from the point of view of the cultural elites, Where are you going, Trump? This guy is a betrayer, a traitor to his class, a sellout. He's now joining the pitchfork people against us. So I think in that little scene is a drama that at least gives us a hint of what Trump represents and why the people who once loved him now loathe him.
Do you think he even realized where this thing might go, like as off the rails as it's gone in terms of some of the things you talk about in the film as it relates to getting him off ballots and the trials and say 2 assassination attempts, et cetera?
I think that he underestimated the depth of corruption of the government. He didn't realize how broadly it had metastasized. This is why, for example, when COVID came along, I think Trump thought, well, yeah, the media is biased against me and academia and Hollywood, but I can trust the guys in the white coats. If Fauci, who's been around since Reagan, comes and tells me you need to shut down the economy, well, I should do it. Now, remember, that was not an easy thing for Trump to do because he was hurting his own economy.
Mm-hmm.
And for people who say, no, it's all about himself, he doesn't really care, I think looking back, that represented a pretty fateful decision by him to jeopardize his own reelection. But he did it because he trusted the CDC. I think he trusted the NIH. Of course, now I think a lot of us, including Trump, have realized, no, even there, the rot has gotten consolidated.
Does that show how deep the rot is in that a guy who ran on draining the swamp, that was the motto, basically, make America great again and drain the swamp, he got drained himself by the swamp or overtaken by the swamp as it pertained to COVID, even though he obviously did, I would say, significantly better things than Biden did when he took over. Trump didn't do mandates, et cetera. But you're saying he did listen to the guys who ultimately turned on him.
I'm saying that he had to learn a tough lesson, which is that even institutions that we previously thought were, quote, conservative, the FBI, the military, even there had been not only a kind of corruption at the very top, but a restructuring of incentives so that the ordinary FBI agent, who's probably not all that political, family guy, gets the idea, hey, if I want a bonus, I got to go arrest those January 6 people. I got to find some more cases. And so this is bureaucratic manipulation, which has, I think, occurred since Obama. Of course, it's continued under Biden. I think this is why I think a Trump second term will be different. The weakness of his first term was personnel, and I think an excessive distrust of institutions that were stabbing him in the back, even though they were part of his executive branch.
So one of the things I've been talking about for years is this sort of widening of what's happening on the right. And suddenly now we have a guy like Elon Musk and we have people like RFK and Tulsi Gabbard. There seems to be something happening. So you're confident that if Trump becomes president a second time, that he would bring in the right people to deal with this effectively? Is that the ultimate vindication?
Yes.
He's sort of implied as it would be the ultimate revenge, I think is what he said.
Yeah, I think it's...
success, that is.
The ultimate success, I think, for Trump is going to be to recognize two things. One is that you need to widen the tent. And so the RFK thing is very significant, I think, for that regard. Because it's one thing for RFK to go, I'm really ticked off at these Democrats. I'm gonna spitefully endorse Trump. But that's about it. No, RFK is he's on the campaign trail. He's doing his thing. And then the Alan Dershowitz, Tulsi Gabbard, Russell Brand, so many others. This is Elon Musk, I think, quite significant. So I think Trump needs to make sure, and I think he's aware of this, include those people. Number two, I think he needs to bring in people into government who take relish and are expert in detoxifying these institutions. And here I mean people of the ilk of Ron DeSantis, Vivek Ramaswamy, people who actually enjoy the particulars of government and bureaucracy and would understand if you put me into the intelligence agencies, I will fumigate that place.
Do you think it really can be done? Do you really believe that this thing that we now all see, that most of that, years ago everyone thought was sort of this grand conspiracy, but now is kind of burst forth for everybody? Do you think it really can be drained, or does the House always win in a weird sense? Well,
the House is very powerful. I think this we got to realize. The House was able to oust Trump in 2020, and Trump had a good economy. He was coasting to re-election. They were able to, through a series of deft and some ways underhanded moves, they pulled it off. They restructured the election rules. Their level of coordination, and by coordination, I don't mean active conspiracy. I mean birds of a feather flying in the same direction in a coordinated pattern. So if you take something as seemingly innocent as the 6 feet social distancing rule, Fauci recently comes out and goes, well, we made that up. There was no science, there were no studies. But then I say to myself, well, why'd you make it up? Why did you think it was such a great idea? And there's only one answer that occurs to me, and that is voting. In other words, you can't have a normal election if people have to stand more than 6 feet apart from you. You can't stand in line. And so you've got to redo the whole structure of the 2020 election. Millions of ballots go out, mail-in drop boxes. So I see these things as always having some rationale. And it's quite clear that the other side has very powerful institutions in its grasp. So it's not clear that we can win. And it's also it is clear that even a Trump victory is not the end of the story. It's really the beginning of the restoration and not the end of it.
If you're looking for more honest and thoughtful conversations about politics instead of nonstop screaming, check out our politics playlist. And if you want to watch full interviews on a variety of topics, watch our full episode playlist, all right over here. And to get notified of all future videos, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell.